Well, hey there, and welcome to the Beginner's Garden podcast. With December here and the holidays right around the corner, I know this is one of the busiest times of year. The last thing that most of us need right now is another list of things we have to do in the garden. So instead of giving you the usual to-do list, I want to give you a get-to-do list. Simple, optional ways to step outside on those mild winter days and stay connected with your garden. Then we'll move indoors and we'll talk about a few easy things that you can do this month to set yourself up for a smooth start to the garden planting season. And toward the end of today's episode, I'll share with you one of my favorite week after Christmas traditions. Something I look forward to every year that helps me dream, plan, and get ready for a fresh start in the garden. But first, let's talk about the get-to-do list outside. Many of us still have some mild days in December. I know this doesn't apply to everyone, but I don't know about you, but when it comes to being in the 60s or even a sunny 50s degree day, yes, I'm in Arkansas, so that's what it takes for me. If you're in the north, maybe the 30s or 40s are good for you. That drives me inside. But some of those mild days, whatever that means to you, are opportunities to get outside in the garden and to be able to enjoy being outside. The list that I'm going to share with you today is very short, and these aren't chores. They're simple things that you get to do if you find yourself wanting a little bit of garden time between some of your busier holiday activities. Number one, take a winter walk through your garden and maybe even have a notebook in hand. You may need to bundle up depending on what the temperature is outside, but whatever you do, just take a slow walk through your garden beds or your containers. Observe what's happening. Look at what the soil looks like. For raised beds, I know one thing that I notice when I'm walking through my beds right now is I notice how much the raised bed soil has dropped, and I need to make a mental note that I need to fill that up to top that off between now and the spring. If it's a pretty day and I have enough energy for it, I may even dig into the bottom of my compost pile, grab some compost and top it off that way. Otherwise, I'll make a note to top it off in the spring. That's just one example. Another thing that you can look at, especially if you get a heavy rain this time of year, notice where the water pools. This is important this time of year because if you don't have grass that's growing and if most everything is dormant, then we don't have that life to be able to absorb the rainwater that we get right away. And because of that, we notice where there are low spots in our yard or in our gardens. That's going to be key for the spring when we start getting heavy rains in the spring, depending on where you're located. This may or may not apply to you. But I know for me, when I first started gardening, you may have heard me talk about this, I had no idea where my water pooled in my garden area. And I had planned my whole garden season thinking that I would plant my garden in a certain place because in the fall it was dry, but I didn't realize in the spring there were little minor lakes. I know I'm being dramatic, but basically the water pooled so much that the garden that I wanted to plant couldn't be planted because it was underwater. So this is a good time of year to observe where your water pools so that you can make the decision. Should I add garden space to this place, or should I add trees, fruit trees, or berry bushes, or maybe perennials in this place because, in the spring and in the winter, they're going to be water saturated and then they may not survive. These are good things to take note of in the winter season. Also take a look at your perennials and your herbs. Are they still hanging in there? What do they look like? How have they adjusted to some of the freezes that you may have had already? Allow your mind to wander and also dream about what you'd like to do or change for next season. These quiet moments of reflection will help you so much when it comes to planning next season's garden. One thing I've noticed about myself is that when I am commanded by the so-called tyranny of the urgent throughout the whole rest of the year, I have trouble dreaming. I have trouble imagining what's possible. But it's in these winter months that it's like my mind has space again, and I'm able to imagine what I would like and what would look good here and how I might want to change things based on my observation. As I was doing this one time this fall, I realized, I really would like another vertical element in my kitchen garden. And I'm thinking about putting an arch trellis in between two of my raised beds. It's something that I do in my larger garden, but it took me just looking out at this bare space to think, I really want to do this or that, and here's what I can do, and here's how I can make it work. Those types of imaginations and dreamings are not things that I had the mental space to be able to do throughout the growing season. So don't take this lightly. Just going outside and taking a walk, not to mention going outside in the sunshine, breathing fresh air. That's good for all of us to do in the middle of the winter, especially when we can be a little bit busy around the holidays. Number two, an idea that you can do, and this lights me up because I love doing this. This may be unique to me. I don't know. I think there's some of you who can feel this. Organize your garden tools and your garden supplies. I know if organization is not your thing, if you're watching me on video, you're probably like, why is she so excited about this? But I'm telling you, I love organizing. This is my favorite thing to do. I may have shared this with you, but my husband just rolls his eyes because when I have time, what I would love to do is reorganize the pantry or reorganize the closet. And no matter that I haven't mopped the floor in a couple of weeks, but as long as the pantry is organized, I'm a happy girl. That's just me. Even when we went on a mission trip to San Diego last year, one of my favorite things to do was this church had a pantry area where they had the foods that they were, food and different supplies that they had, and it was all a mess. And I took the morning and I reorganized that whole thing. That was my favorite thing to do. So you can just get a little bit of backstory of why this makes me giddy. But regardless of if you are the organizing type of person, I probably spent way too much time talking about that, but you can kind of see where my passions are there. Regardless, you probably have a somewhat of a mess by the end of the garden season, because when we get busy, we put the tool down here or there, or we just grab things that we need and shove it back. I do that in the middle of the season. I have neat places for all my floating row covers to be, but in the middle of the busyness, do I put them back where they need to go? As great as I am at organizing, I'm not so great at keeping up with things. So things are scattered. My greenhouse, if you saw on Instagram or on YouTube, the before picture, my greenhouse can get pretty cluttered. So regardless, this is a really good time to organize your space, to put things where they belong, to figure out what you need and what you don't need. This is where you can gather all your supplies, organize it, purge what you didn't use or you're not going to need anymore, clean some of your tools, sharpen them, oil them if you need to. It's surprisingly satisfying, at least it is for me. But even if you don't love the organization process, you have to admit we like when things are neat and everything's in its place and it's easy to find things. This is something that you're going to be glad that you did in the spring when you are starting to need to use a lot of these things. So take a mild afternoon to gather, to organize, to do whatever that you need to do to get things ready for the spring, and you'll be glad that you did. And again, you were able to get outside, move your body in a time where your body just craves being outside as much as it can. Number 3, pull any spent crops or any weeds from your raised beds in particular, and then top off with compost or mulch. I mentioned this before. This isn't necessarily about a full-on clean out. A lot of the times we are leaving some things in our garden specifically for pollinators and for birds to be able to have food throughout the winter. That's why I'm not clearing out all of my spent echinacea plants or other things like that. I did take out my okra, but they had root knot nematodes so bad I took them all out. But a lot of times I'll leave my okra in the garden so that my beneficial insects can have a place to be able to hibernate for the winter. So I'm not talking about a full clean out, mainly just tidying things up, especially in our raised beds. If we remove these dead plants, a lot of times this helps prevent pests and diseases from overwintering as easily. And then adding a light layer of compost will start to nourish our soil through the winter. And that way it's ready to go, it's already settled, and that's one less thing we have to do when the spring rush begins. Another thing you can do is to mulch your raised beds. This will help protect the soil over the winter months. It protects it from heavy rain and from wind. And that mulch, whether you use shredded leaves or wood chips or straw, whatever you use, will start to break down and help to feed those microorganisms in the soil and help to contribute to more healthy soil altogether. This is a simple refresh that helps your garden start stronger next season, and it just feels good to be able to see my bed is ready to go. Whenever spring comes, it's ready to plant, and it's one less thing you have to do. Number 4, build or repair something that you may not have gotten around to during the busyness of the growing season. Maybe you are wanting to add another raised bed. Maybe you want to either add a compost bin or build one or add a new trellis. This is a great time to put these systems in place. The reason, there's no pressure to plant right away. So you don't have to hurry up and get that trellis assembled or hurry up and get that raised bed built. You can do it as you go. You can pick a nice day and then you can have it ready to go. It feels good to be able to check off one of those Sunday projects from your list before the spring sneaks up on you. Now, if you get a winter, though, these days that we can get outside, especially as we head into January and February, are going to be a little few and far between. So I wanted to keep that list for you pretty light and pretty doable. But there's still a lot of things that we can do inside, especially on those dark winter evenings or days when it's too cold or wet to get outside. So we're going to talk about the things that you can do in the coziness of your own home in just a moment. But first, I wanted to thank today's sponsor, Organic Rev. As we're talking about the tools and the products that we want to organize, Organic Rev is one of the ones that I make sure that I have in its place, but also make sure that I have enough. If you're unfamiliar with Organic Rev, this is a plant growth stimulant. And if you still have plants growing in your fall and winter garden, adding 1 ounce of Rev per gallon of water and then watering your plants that are still growing can help protect it from the cold snaps that come and can help them become more resilient and hopefully last as long as they can in your beds. But I also want to make sure and have it ready for my spring crops as well, because when I'm starting to do indoor seed starting, whether that is soaking the seeds in Rev, which I do from time to time, but more importantly, I use it when I'm watering my new seedlings or when I'm potting up to a different soil container, or I am planting out in the garden, I always use Organic Rev. So this is a great time to stock up on Organic Rev so that you can have it ready when the spring comes. So if you're looking to help your soil and also help your plants, make sure to have it ready and on hand for when you need it. And you can use my code Jill10 to get 10% off of your order. Just go to organicrev.com and again, use code Jill10 to save 10%. All right, so when it's too cold or too dark outside, this is your chance to do a little bit of behind the scenes garden prep. This kind of prep makes January and February garden planning so much easier. So number 1, we're going to go back to organizing. Okay, I'm not going to have to wax poetic about that, but besides organizing your outdoor setup, this is a great time to organize your indoor seed starting setup if you are going to be growing anything indoors this year. Gather your supplies, put it where it needs to be. For this is probably unique to me, but I do grow both inside in a grow room under grow lights, and I grow quite a bit in my greenhouse. But what I want to do is make sure that I have supplies ready for where I'm going to need it. And this time of year, January, I'm doing most of my growing inside. So I want to get my supplies handy inside, gather them all together, clean them if I need to, and then make note of what I might need to replace or add, and then throw away things that I don't need. It seems like every year I'm throwing away those flimsy plastic cell trays that I've gotten because I'll buy transplants on occasion from the garden center. I don't need those. For the most part, I'm going to be purging them because most of the time I'm using my Epic cell trays, which last for year after year, or the Green Stalks indoor seed starting setup, which I've also been using quite a bit. But those are going to last year after year, so I'm not going to need to throw them away or collect these plastic trays that they get torn and they get damaged, and I don't even use those. So why have them cluttering everything, right? So there are some things that we do want to throw away just to make things a little bit more neat and tidy. But again, as you're organizing, what might you need to buy or to acquire before seed starting season begins? If you already have a grow light and you already have cell trays, which to me are your number one purchases that you would need to have for indoor seed starting, some other additions would include a seedling heat mat. Now, this is important for warm weather crops, not necessarily cool season crops. If you're growing celery, broccoli, cabbage indoors, those are usually the first ones that I'm starting indoors, onions, they're not going to need a seedling heat mat because they're cool season crops. Room temperature is perfectly fine. But if you're going to be growing, especially peppers and even tomatoes or basil, they can benefit from having a seedling heat mat below them. It can just help them to germinate quicker. Another addition that I made a couple of years ago was a small clip-on fan. In my grow room, I have a ceiling fan, but it doesn't really move air a whole lot. But when I started using this clip-on fan, I felt like it helped my seedlings to get stronger because it simulates wind. And by the time the seedlings get out into the garden, they've already been accustomed and they've been able to get stronger rather than sitting in a stagnant room where they've got no pressure on them at all. So a small little fan, you can get them on Amazon. I think I probably have the one that I have on my Amazon list at journeywithjill.net/Amazon. But again, I did this for many years without it, but it has been a nice addition. And that's one thing to consider because there's lots of things that you can get, but you can slowly add every single year. What might you need this year? What might be helpful next year? What can you wait on? What do you want to have? All that to say, you can add little by little, especially if your budget is tight. Number two, as you're working on your indoor seed starting setup, or even if you're not starting seeds indoors, if you have seeds from previous years, this is a great time to sort them out and to inventory what you have. So pull out all of your seeds. You may have them in a seed box. They may be scattered different places. Like I have found seeds in different locations because again, I'm good at organizing, but not great at putting things back where they belong. So grab wherever your seeds are and sort them. I like to sort them by the plant family, like the kind. So I'll put all my broccoli together, all my cabbage together. Some people sort them by planting season. They may sort them by cool season crops and then warm season crops, or the month I'm going to plant, January, February. There's all sorts of ways that you can organize them. But the point is to have them organized in a way that you can access them quickly. Because when the time comes and you realize, okay, today's the day to plant carrots and it's pretty outside and everything's ready to go, I want to be able to grab those carrots pretty quickly. But have them sorted out so that you know what you have. And also, you want to look at quantities because I may have a seed packet of my favorite carrots, which would be New Carota, but I need to look and make sure there's enough seeds in there. I have had the bad habit in the past. I don't know if you can raise your hand on this or not, but I have had a bad habit of not tossing my empty seed packets because I felt like I would need to know what I grew before, which I had already written that in my planner already, so realized later that that was kind of silly. But I have actually gone to plant a seed because I had the seed packet and then I opened the seed packet and it's either empty or it only has 1 or 2 seeds. So to avoid that, I recommend putting your hands on every seed packet and looking inside, do I have enough or do I need to order more? My seed and plant research sheet in the Complete Garden Planner is what I use to be able to make a list of what I have plenty of and what I need to order more of. And another thing that you'll want to do is make a note of the expiration dates on your seeds. Now, this is a good time to talk about how long seeds actually last. And most of us are going to be storing them in room temperature in a dry place. Notice that if you leave them in the greenhouse, yes, that's happened to me a lot. I have left seeds in the greenhouse either all summer or all winter. They're probably not going to last as long. I have definitely noticed that. But if they're inside in a climate protected area, this is about what you can expect. Many herbs, brassicas like broccoli, cabbage, kale, melons, cucumbers, and most flowers, they're probably going to last about 5 years or more and have a pretty decent germination rate. So just because they're a couple of years old, that doesn't mean that you need to toss them. They're probably still going to be okay. About 2 to 5 years is what you can expect for tomatoes, peppers, carrots, beets, Swiss chard, lettuce, spinach, and most greens. Again, a lot of this is relative, but you can get a few years out of these things. The seeds that won't last as long are going to be seeds like onions, leeks, parsnips, and sweet corn. Those are probably going to last about 2 years or less. And if you're unsure about older seeds, then you can do a couple of things. You can do a quick germination test just to plant a few and see if they sprout. But what I tend to do, because I feel like that's a lot of work, is I just know, I make a mental note that the older the seed packet is, the more I'm going to need to plant. When you look at a seed packet and you see the normally doesn't say expiration date. Normally it just says when it was packed for, like what year the seeds were packed. So you know that's what year it is. But it's not like milk in that there's an expiration date, and when it hits it, it's going to start going bad. Seeds are going to act a little bit differently. What happens with them is that the older that they get, the germination rate actually decreases. So instead of fresh seed, depending on the variety, you may be looking at a 90% germination rate, as in 9 of 10 of those seeds are going to germinate. If it's 3, 4, 5 years old, you may be looking at 4 out of those 10, or the seeds will take longer to germinate. Instead of sprouting in 1 or 2 days, that's actually probably a little bit too soon. But let's say sprouting in 3 to 7 days, it might take 14 days, or one might come along later. Those are probably not going to be the best quality of plants if they take that long. But all that to say, typically what I'll do, if I see, let's say it's a lettuce packet, and let's say that lettuce packet was bought in 2022, then I'm probably just going to sow more of those seeds than I would a lettuce packet that I bought this year, because I'm trying to account for the fact that they're probably not going to germinate as quickly. And a lot of times for me, lettuce is one example that I'll just keep planting until I realize that there's no germination rate, and then I'll toss them eventually. But that's the way that I do it. I just keep them and make a mental note. That's just me. Number 3, collect seed catalogs now. They're going to start arriving in your mailbox. If you have placed any orders online or through seed catalogs in the past, they're going to start arriving in your mailbox, and then I usually put them on my coffee table. Collect them as they come in if it's a supplier that you want to buy from. Once you start getting on these gardening mailing lists, I guess, you'll start getting seed catalogs from companies that you haven't heard of before. And if you haven't heard of them, I would recommend doing an internet search to see if this is a reputable company or not. I've had the bad experience of getting a catalog and it wasn't a reputable company, and I didn't learn that until I ordered something. But look it up, see if it's something that you want to consider. If you have never ordered seeds online before, you can go online to certain companies and request a physical catalog if they make one, and then you can have them mailed to you. Or if you prefer digital browsing, or maybe you have a seed supplier that doesn't print a catalog, you can bookmark them, and that way you have them ready to go when you start ordering. Many people are asking me constantly, what's the best seed company? And there's really not a best seed company. There are several ones that I order from continuously, but there's lots more that are really great options as well. I'll just tell you the ones that I tend to gravitate toward and the ones that I tend to order from, but I'm always keeping an open mind for other options. Territorial Seeds is one of my favorites. I love the information that they give for each seed, and it really helps me to narrow down what's important to me. Southern Exposure Seed Exchange is a great option for those of you who, like me, live in the South, because a lot of their options are specifically created or selected for those of us who deal with hotter summers. And so this is a great option for those who live in the South. I'm sure there are other seed companies that are similar to different regions. So you might want to ask some people in your area to see what regional seed catalogs are available for you. But I think that's a great idea to have a regional option, especially if you're looking to grow something that you know is a little bit more challenging in your climate. Having that resource is really helpful. Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds is one of my favorites. I don't buy as many from them as I used to, but I really do like their selection. I love browsing the catalog. It's beautiful. And at least it has been the past several years, shipping is free, which is a big deal because all the other seed companies, for the most part, charge shipping, and the shipping isn't cheap. So it's definitely a consideration if you order from a lot of different seed companies like I do. I do enjoy Johnny's. I feel like they have a great selection of a lot of different types of plants. Greens are one of my favorite things to order from Johnny's. I like their seed catalog. I do find them to be a little bit more pricey, but in many cases, you get what you pay for. And then Wood Prairie Family Farm, I mainly am ordering their seed potatoes from them. You guys have heard about that. But they also have organic seeds as well. And they are selling different plants like sweet potatoes, slips. I think I just saw that they're selling mushrooms now. So they have different options. But those catalogs are the ones that I'm going to be looking to. I'm sure there's more, but those are the ones that I tend to gravitate toward the most. Now online, Botanical Interest, they did have a seed catalog a couple years ago. I didn't get one last year, so I'm not sure if they're still printing or not. But Botanical Interest has become probably my favorite source altogether because I love their options. I love that they don't have so many options that I get overwhelmed, but the ones that are there are good options, and then they have done really well. Every seed that I have got from Botanical Interest has performed well. So I really enjoy them. True Leaf Market is where I get my cover crop seeds generally, and any kind of greens. If I don't get them from Johnny's, I'll get them from True Leaf Market. I get a big package of their arugula, which is what I use for a couple of years. That packet will last me for a long time. In My Gardener is another great option. Everything that I bought from there has been good. And I like how they have options of cheaper seed packets. You may get fewer seeds per seed packet. It just depends on the varieties. Sometimes they're just the same, but definitely cross-check the prices within My Gardener. I found them to be a very good priced alternative to some of the more expensive ones. But again, they don't print out a catalog, so you'll have to do your shopping with them online. But those are just some of my favorite options. I didn't want to give you all the ones that I use just because there's so many, but those are some that I would definitely point you to as to begin with. Now, as I mentioned, I wanted to share with you my after Christmas tradition. You may have heard me talk about this before, but it's something that I look forward to every year. And what I do is that once Christmas is behind us, and I'm one of those people that I like to put my Christmas tree and my decorations up the day after Christmas. Like once Christmas is here, I'm done. I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to have a fresh start. I think honestly, part of me is like the big part about Christmas is the buildup. And now that it's over, it's almost like the Christmas tree sits there mocking me like, yeah, nothing left now. I know that's crazy, but I'm just ready for it to be done. So once I put it up and get everything cleaned up, then I settle down in my favorite chair or couch. I like to have cozy blankets. If I'm lucky, I can get a fire in the fireplace. My husband's in charge of that, and he normally builds me a fire. There's typically football on TV. There's some kind of bowl game going on that week. And then I grab my stack of seed catalogs that I have collected and a Sharpie. And what I do, this is very methodical, but it's something that has worked really well for me over the years. What I do is I go through each catalog front to back, and I circle any variety that I think will be worth considering for my garden. I read the descriptions. I note things like a cucumber or squash. Is it disease resistant or not? Things that I know that are important to me. I will circle if there's any possibility I might want to consider it. And I'll do that for every catalog. And the thing that I love about this is that I'm usually not trying to be extremely discerning about this. I'm just like, okay, this might be something that I want to consider, but I'm not making that decision yet. I'm circling it with my Sharpie. I'm dog-earing that page. And then once I'm finished with all the catalogs, then I'll pull out my complete garden planner, and in that planner is the seed and plant research sheet, which I mentioned before. And what I'll do is I'll take whatever vegetable or herb or flower it is, and I'll just write it down. And usually the first one will be beans, because alphabetically that's usually what it is. So I'll take and I'll write beans, and then I'll go through all the catalogs and I'll write down every bean variety that I have circled in each catalog. And specifically, there's a place on that seed and plant research sheet where you can write down details. And that's important to me, because if there's something in particular that caught my eye about a particular variety, whether it is the days to maturity, or it produces well in heat, or it has disease resistance, or whatever it was that caught my eye, I'm going to write that in the description part of it, I'm also going to put how much it costs and the quantity. That's important because sometimes you can find things that cost a lot, but they have more, and vice versa. And also it helps you to prepare or compare, because there are different seed companies that carry the same seeds, but the price can be quite a bit different. So I'm looking at the price as well. And then once I'm done with that, I start to narrow down my list to what's reasonable to purchase. That's why I want to do this all at once, because if I just went through one seed catalog and like, okay, I want to buy this, this, and this, and then I order it, and then I go to another seed catalog and I'm like, oh, but I like this one and this one, I better get that. And then all of a sudden I have way too many seeds and it doesn't make sense to order them all. Seeds are not as cheap as they used to be. So when you're looking at a seed packet that's going to be like $4 at least, some of them are cheaper for sure, but still that can add up pretty quickly. I want to be judicious about what I'm ordering. So by comparing all these different varieties, let's say watermelon, because I do that a lot. Watermelon's my favorite. I'm looking at, okay, I have 8 varieties listed. Am I really going to plant 8 varieties of watermelon? No. So let's cull that down to my favorite 3, because I already have 5 that I've collected from years past, and I know that those seeds are still good. Then I'm going to be a little bit more smart in what I'm going to order this year. And then once I decide what I'm going to order, my goal is to order everything from all the catalogs, wherever I'm ordering from, by December 1st. Now, this is just an arbitrary deadline for me. It started out many years ago when I wanted to get all the orders in by December 31st for tax purposes because I own this business. But lately it's been more, I want to get them ordered because especially with some of them more in-demand seeds, Johnny's in particular, but there have been other seed companies that have run out of the seeds that most people want for whatever reason. But if I can get them ordered by December 31st, I'm going to have the best selection. But even more important than that, I have my seeds here and ready to go when seed starting season begins. That's one of the things that I want to do to prepare to have them ready. And hopefully you can hear that theme throughout this whole episode. It's not necessarily what the garden needs from me in December. It's more, what can I do right now to prepare for a smoother start when garden season starts to get going in full force, when we're starting to plan and do our layouts and decide how many we're going to plant of what, and all these things that are fun to do. But if we can get some of these back tasks done and have them ready to go, then the planning and the planting part is so much more enjoyable. So with that in mind, I hope this episode has given you some simple ideas, ways that you can stay connected in your garden this month. I didn't want it to be anything heavy or any major, like you got to do this and this, because really it's December. There's not a whole lot that you have to do. But it's some things that you can do to stay connected and be excited, because for various reasons, this time of year isn't the easiest for everyone, whether it's the holidays that are a struggle or the lack of daylight, or even just January and February seem to be the longest months of the year. Having something to look forward to with gardening does make a big difference in the way that we live and the excitement that we can have even during these longer days of the year. So when you're ready to start dreaming and planning for next season, don't forget, I've mentioned before, you can get your copy of the Complete Garden Planner. It's a downloadable planner. It's a digital download, so you can download it right now. You can start printing it now, and that way you have it ready when inspiration strikes, whether you're just walking your garden and you're getting ideas, or it's when you're ready to start perusing those seed catalogs. You're ready to go. You can grab that at journeywithjill.net/shop, and I will link that for you also in the show notes. Now, as we move into next week, I want to let you know that we have a special episode. If you've been thinking about adding flowers to your garden, or even if you've been thinking about selling at a local farmer's market, you're going to want to tune in. This is a fun episode. It's inspiring. It's the great kind of episode to sit back and enjoy this time of year. And I know you're going to love it. You won't want to miss it. So be sure to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already, in whatever app that you listen to this with. You're going to love it next week. And I can't wait to talk with you then. So I hope you have a great week, and I'll chat with you next week.